Now, Nigel Farage is imminent, but we're going to go back to the Kingswood count, where I'm joined again by the Conservative MP for North Somerset and GBNews presenter Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. So, Jacob, we now have these numbers. The Labour Party has taken this seat. It's in your patch. What do you make of it?
Well, I think it's not as good a result as Labour would have liked, but I'd like to begin by congratulating Mr Egan. It is a wonderful thing and a great honour to be a Member of Parliament, and anyone who wins a seat deserves congratulations. But if you add up the Conservative vote and the Reform vote, then that is more than the vote achieved by the Labour Party, and I think the challenge for Conservatives and conservatism is to reunite the right wing of politics, because the way we let Keir Starmer in by the back door of Downing Street is if the two parties that share so many things in common are divided on election day.
It is really, really interesting for you to say that, Sir Jacob, because this is going to be a crucial message for the Conservative Party. I can almost see this written on Conservative leaflets going into the future, going into further elections, that the Reform Party, and if I've taken it from what you're saying there, from pointing out that Tory plus Reform would have beaten Labour here, is it your message that the Reform Party cost the Tories this seat?
No, I think it's very arrogant to say that people should have voted for another party. It's for us as politicians to win their support, but I think we win their support by concentrating on the areas where we agree, and that means getting to a position where taxes are reduced, dealing with the ridiculous net zero proposals that are becoming unaffordable and are closing down industry in this country, making sure we get all the benefits of Brexit, the things that people voted for in 2019. If we can put that across, we can remind people of the excitement of conservatism and can reunite the right of politics, then the Conservatives, with Reform, have a chance of winning the next election.
The Conservatives won 8,675 votes in Kingswood. Labour won 11,176. That is not the biggest margin in the world, but frankly, perhaps more than looking at other parties, the question might be, what has happened to all those Conservatives that turned out in 2019 who've chosen to stay at home?
That's absolutely right. I mean, very often at by-elections people stay at home, but it goes back to what I was saying. How do we energise our supporters to make them feel they want to turn out to vote? And I think that is by reminding them of what Conservatives stand for. And that is of getting taxes down, getting the economy going, of not having an energy policy that's making people cold and poor. If we can push that forward, then we can encourage people to turn out to vote.
Your message there of turning to perhaps a more, for want of a better word, Trussian policy prospectus, some people might say didn't turn out particularly well last year. What would be your counter to that argument? I'm not putting any particular name to what I'm suggesting. I'm saying it's Conservative policy. And actually, ideologically, I don't think it's a million miles away from Rishi Sunak's view of the world. Rishi Sunak is a huge admirer of the late Nigel Lord Lawson and has said that on many occasions. Nigel Lawson was the biggest tax cutter this country's known in its modern history. And yet, what Rishi Sunak has been saying is that inflation needs to come down first. To some extent, the monetarist policy that we've seen that's pushed this country into a mild recession, into a technical recession yesterday, to some extent, that is precisely what Rishi Sunak wanted to see happen.
Well, it's obviously important to get inflation under control, but I'm afraid the Bank of England failed to keep inflation under control, was slow putting interest rates up, and is now being slow to bring them back down again. There is a real problem with the way the Bank of England is operating, and the governor coming out in the last couple of days and blaming his inaccurate forecasts on the data that they use is really hopeless. It's always been known that the data that go into forecasts are not as accurate as you would hope for, and you have to apply judgment to your forecasts, not assuming that they will just mathematically be right.
The Labour Party yesterday saying that this is Rishi's recession. Are you, Sir Jacob, saying that this is actually the Bank of England's recession?
Oh, it's clearly the Bank of England's recession. The Bank of England has bungled monetary policy in the last few years.
Well, you couldn't have been clearer than that. Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, thank you very much for coming to us live from the Kingswood count.
Pleasure.
As we again learn that information, Labour has taken the seat of Kingswood. They have won it with 10 percentage points clear of the Conservative Party.